You've come home to see me, little Mako.
It's Agent Mako now.
You should have known joining the FBI wouldn't rid you of me. Intrusive memories are the mark of a traumatized mind.
I thought I had a handle on it, but I read a book that reminded me far too much of you.
Never mind the King of Kings, I will teach you all secret things.
I now have the Lord, and he keeps no secrets from me. The internet is not for kids. Never has a statement been so universally accepted as true, and yet so universally ignored. The battle between freedom of speech online and the protection of the minds of children has been raging since the internet's creation. And I want to make it very clear that I am not the kind of person who holds the internet accountable for individual safety. I'm not making this video because I want to sound the alarm against any specific enemy. I just want to point out the most glaring negative side effect of this technological advancement. That being the deep spiritual corruption of my generation, along with all generations to follow. Finally, we have Chow's uncle. He's the one who caused the transition from fictional movies to non-fictional videos. He grinned a devilish grin and asked, "Do you guys want to see the real deal?" It seemed that my companions were speechless, but I had no issue with finding the words, "Spectacular, do you have more videos like that?" My dear, the internet is filled to the brim with videos like that. Morbid curiosity is a very natural part of the human psyche and human development, and death may be a fact of life that is necessary for us to accept. However, the internet is a window into the abyss, containing images capable of scarring anyone at any age. Although it may no longer be operational, it's eerie for me to think about the fact that a website like Rotten.com was a part of my childhood.
But when I asked on Twitter how you first discovered Rotten.com, I didn't receive a single response mentioning that email. The overwhelming majority of you, despite it being a website for adults, heard about it at school from other kids.
The Canadian site BestGore is another page that I'm ashamed to admit was a nostalgic part of my adolescence. Both of these websites tantalized a dark corner of my young mind. And both of these site owners were deeply admirable to me because of their persistent defending of their freedom of speech. As Soylent himself states, "To censor this site, it is necessary to censor medical texts, history texts, evidence rooms, courtrooms, art museums, libraries, and other sources of information vital to the functioning of a free society. Horrors are sprinkled throughout life, and I see no problem with concentrating them. If you want, we could go down to the bookstores and find pictures of cadavers for you. It's very easy. It's not possible to write a law to make it impossible to display that stuff, even for minors. It's too much of a slippery slope to take." Soylent may have been correct when he stated the fact that it was unethical and, more importantly, unconstitutional for our government to try and censor Rotten.com. But that shouldn't stop you from asking, why did my childhood self feel the need to relish in the grotesquerie his site captured in the first place? Or accepting the harsh reality that, through this website and others like it, you destroyed an irreplaceable part of your innocence?
The most damaging kinds of pornography are those that involve violence and sexual violence, because the wedding of those two forces, as I know only too well, brings about behavior that is just too terrible to describe.
Throughout the years, we've watched our media vigorously cover the subject of online sexual predators. So much so to the point that Chris Hansen basically managed to build his entire career off of it.
I'm Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC, and we're doing a story on it.
And although it's sad that we no longer have hilarious TV shows like To Catch a Predator to gawk at least we can all sit around and crack up at whatever idiot YouTuber is currently being outed as a pedophile.
I don't like where this is going.
If only years ago, some brilliant young woman had said on a Skype call with her friends, "I don't like Danny Sexbang. He seems like the kind of guy who would fuck teenage girls." But all jokes aside, it breaks my heart to consider the fact that pornographers are not subject to criticism and mockery, especially when you consider the fact that the average age of exposure to internet pornography is only 11 years old. I have even gone so far as to say to many of my friends that I feel as if we all experienced this universal form of sexual trauma. All of us have seen it, all of us have been scarred by it in some way, and all of us have been affected as adults. It may be true to say that there's nothing new under the sun, but I think we can all agree that so many of the horrifying rabbit holes of sexual fetishes that exist out there today are only present because of the internet. And I suppose that becoming a baby fur isn't as bad as murdering dozens of women and hiding their bodies in Provo Canyon, but your spirit is still unmistakably corrupted.
People always say, well, you know, all sex workers, all porn stars have been molested and stuff
They have.
like that.
My first childhood memory is molestation.
This pornography may not have a name to file or a set of wrists to cuff, but it is a predatory force nonetheless. It took me multiple years to admit to myself that my exposure to extreme real-life gore and internet pornography negatively impacted me as a person, that it negatively impacted my development and scarred me in ways that are irredeemable on some level. But at the very least, it has taught me to be protective over my own children when I finally have them. It's taught me to do the things that my parents didn't think to out of ignorance. But I still ask myself if my peers will do the same. And it pains me to think, probably not, because they don't even have the instinct to protect themselves.